Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Tuesday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We're having some internet issues. We're on my location here, so I'm not sure if I'll get your Facebook Live messages. Hopefully it'll kick in here shortly. About 8:15 we'll be joined by Andy Staples from the Andy Staples Show, also Sirius XM and The Athletic. Get his thoughts on the Billy Napier hire, college football in general. Does a tremendous job covering college sports. If you're not aware of this, the Gators play basketball tomorrow night in Oxford against Ole Miss. And then the women play on Thursday. They're actually sitting at 10-3, believe it or not. Kelly Ray family's done a tremendous job taking over that program. So getting into conference play now. And the Gators battle Ole Miss tomorrow night. Actually, it's an afternoon game. I think it's around 5 o'clock Eastern time. Still trying to get my bearings here. I don't know why this is not working today, but it's not for some reason. If you missed it last night, the Dolphins, they're a bad football team. Good gracious, they're bad. They have not beat anybody worth a darn. I doubt they make the playoffs, but they're not a very good football team. Saints are just decimated with COVID players. Played with Ian Book, who had one day of practice, and you could tell he is not ready to play in the National Football League. But just give the Dolphins credit, but I do not see them making the playoffs. If they do, they'll be one and done for sure. They're not great on offense. Defense, they're pretty solid, but I don't think they're a good playoff, especially with the other teams in the AFC. I think they won 7 or 8 in a row, something along those lines. But I'm going to see if I can pull this up on my phone. Bear with me here, folks. As I said, Andy Staples will join us at 8:15. A lot of college football games today. Bowl games kick off at noon Eastern time. Those are the Birmingham Bowl, Auburn and Houston. At 3:15, you got the First Responder Bowl, Air Force and Louisville. 6:45, Liberty Bowl, Mississippi State, Texas Tech. And then 2 games later this evening, the Holiday Bowl, NC State, UCLA, and the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, West Virginia and Minnesota. Let me see if I can do this. Somebody told me I can mute it, but I don't see where. Okay, so I think I just did it, but we'll see. Oh, yeah, here we go. Lauren says, "What's up, Shane? Happy holidays. Same to you, my man. Hope everybody out there had a great Christmas. Looking forward to their New Year's parties and what have you." Joseph said the Dolphins are on an 8-0 streak. Don't think they're great either, but they figured something out. Well, that is true, Joseph. They figured if you look at who they've beaten, I don't think they've beaten a team with a winning record. But give them credit. I just don't think they're very good. Not compared to some of the other AFC teams. But that's why you play the game and give them credit. But they struggled against a bad Saints team last night, quite honestly. And there's nothing more frustrating than when you're on location and your internet does not work. It is not a fun experience. Again, we're going to be joined by Andy Staples. Get your questions and comments ready for Andy. You can shoot them to us. I believe I can get them here on my phone on Facebook Live, brought to you by Melton Law, or you can text them to us. Joe said, any given Sunday in the NFL, QB, look at what Houston just did. That is very true. It can happen. You never know what's going to happen. I'm just saying, watching them play, and I've watched them play a little bit here and there, not closely. I just don't think they're a great football team. But I guess they're in the playoff hunt right now. If it ended today, I'm not 100% sure. Turn your car or truck into a rolling billboard for your business or brand with an eye-catching vehicle wrap from WrapSpot this December. Mention promo code Shane. Receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. We have a text here on the Titan MR text line. Jim asked, Shane, how big is it that Ventrell Miller and Justin Shorter have decided to come back for another year with the Gators? I think Ventrell Miller, he's a really good football player. I think we got to get some pieces around him for him to be able to use his ability. You know, if you don't have good play on the defensive line, it doesn't matter who you got playing linebacker, they won't have a chance. So I think D-line, we have to address that as well. And then Justin Shorter coming back gives you another big-bodied guy who's played a lot of football. We need to get some little shifty Jaquez Green, Kadarius Toney type guys, like the kid from UCF. We got too many big-bodied, long striders, in my opinion. So it'll be interesting to see what Billy Napier does. I know we offered a receiver from UTEP. I'm not sure of his measurables, but I assume he's coming. I'm not 100% sure. Dan says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon, Sanford beat Ole Miss with the Quez Glover 3 at the buzzer. Quez is averaging 19 at Sanford this year. I didn't realize he was playing there. Good for him. Sanford's a good little program in their level. John says, I'm old enough to remember when JC thought Jax could be Houston. JC thought Jax was going to win 7 games. What a mess that place is. I don't know if you saw the ending. You know, us people that live in the Gainesville area, we have to watch the Jags because that's what the TV stations carry. I saw the very end of that, and they spiked it on 3rd down. It was a mess. It was a mess. But the Jags are a bad football team. Joseph said Bowman is a little shifty type guy. Should see him this year coming. I'm talking about at the wide receiver position. We need shifty dudes at the wide receiver position. Ventrell Miller, Tyron Hopper, Chief Borders, Shamar James. There's 1 or 2 more. These guys are going to get coached up, and we'll see a major improvement in the linebacker room. Let's hope so. John says everyone is offering the UTEP wide receiver is over 1,300 receiving yards. Okay, I wasn't aware of that. I was hoping we'd get the kid out of Western Kentucky, the wide receiver. His name escapes me right now, but I think he committed to Penn State for some reason. I don't know why anybody would want to go play there right now. If you got any questions, jot them down. Get ready to shoot them to us for Andy Staples when he joins the program about 8:15. I've got a text on the Titan MR text line. Doesn't tell me who this is from. Just says I saw where we're getting a visit from another 4-star. Yeah, I don't know who that is, where he's from, but not a whole lot. I think it's dead period right now. Once January comes around, then we'll get more people back on campus. But he's still continually filling all the spots in the front office. And I don't know if the whole entire coaching staff is filled yet or not. I need to check into that and see. Let's see. Let me get back to my Facebook Live here. Again, the Gators play tomorrow night. If you missed it yesterday, it was one bowl game. Western Michigan played Nevada. Nevada had a quarterback that had 6'9". Tallest quarterback to ever play college football. He wasn't very good. Nevada has a really good quarterback who opted out, Carson Strong. He'll be a first-rounder. And they had like 2 or 3 receivers opt out, too. They lost their coach to Colorado State. Their situation was very similar to the Gators, except that their coach left. He wasn't fired. So they got blasted by Western Michigan. But today, you got a lot of games. None are canceled that I'm aware of. If you want to tune in and watch some college football today, if you're not back at work. Some people just take the whole week off. So we offered the kid out of UTEP who was in the transfer portal, Jacob Cowing. Lauren tells me here Napier's looking at a few guys from the NFL, so he has to wait until next week, okay, to fill out his staff. Appreciate the information, fellas. I don't always keep up with everything, and seems like Coach Napier adds a different person each day, and I love it because of the titles he gives these people. It cracks me up. If you've got joint pain in your knees, shoulders, hip, or back that won't go away, you need to check out QC Kinetics for long-lasting relief. No surgery, drugs, or downtime. Schedule a free consultation at QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550. No Buddy Martin today. He's normally on our Tuesday morning program, but he is on vacation. We'll get him back, but we're definitely going to get Andy Staples join us about 12:15. Okay. Joseph says, word is Rump is coming after his team finishes their season in 2 weeks. Okay, talking about Chris Rump, who was here before. Tremendous football coach, has a great relationship with his players. I want to say he is coaching the Chicago Bears defensive line at the moment. But that'll be a good pickup, a very good pickup. Text here on the Titan MR text line from Gary. Gary says, has Emory Jones officially entered the transfer portal yet? Officially, I can't answer that. I guess we could pull it up if I had internet service where I was at, but it's not working. But as of, I guess, the bowl game, I figured he was entering the transfer portal. If anybody else has heard or seen that, let us know. Another text here on the Titan MR text line from Daryl. He says, good morning, Shane. I look for Auburn to lose their bowl game today. I do too, Daryl. I think Houston, they have a really good quarterback, a potent offense. Auburn's kind of in turmoil right now. Bo Nick's leaving. TJ Finley will start. They lost Mike Bobo, their offensive coordinator. They're making a transition there. So, I know the game's in Birmingham, but does Auburn really care about playing this game? I think Houston, I expect Houston to win. I picked Houston to win in our picks contest, our Peachland Dental picks contest. So we shall see. But at least we got some football to watch today. If you have nothing else to do, I still enjoy watching bowl games. I know a lot of people out there think we have too many. I'm one that does not, maybe just because I love the sport. Joseph said, what if Emory ends up staying? I don't think he will. I think it's going to be a two-horse race for the quarterback position with hey, we're getting all these texts now. People have checks to transfer portal. He has not, excuse me, he has not officially declared for the transfer portal. But I think it's going to be between Jack Miller and Anthony Richardson. But I know Jack Miller is the guy that they targeted as soon as Billy Napier got the job. And it wouldn't surprise me if they signed one other QB. But it's going to be interesting in the spring. Billy's got his work cut out for him. As I said, I became a Gator in 1988, and I would probably say this is the worst talented roster I've seen since my time in 1988. Some of you people that have been watching Gator football a lot longer than I have may say that's correct or incorrect. That's just my opinion from what my eyes tell me. So we shall see. But, with a decent little recruiting class, adding some pieces from the transfer portal here and there, I think we can get it turned around pretty quickly. Can we win the SEC? Don't know. Can we win the East? Don't know if we can do that. All I'm asking is, worst case scenario, Florida has got to go 9-3 every year. If you got to beat the South Carolinas, the Kentuckys, and the Missouris of the world. If you lose until you get your program back stable, if you lose to the Georgias and the LSUs and another big time program out west, that's fine. But we have got to go 9-3 from here on. John says, don't forget they were targeting a pocket passer in high school also. Yes, I believe they want a thrower. If you watch college football today, the major teams that are winning have dudes that can throw the football, and that's what we have to get to. So we shall see. Again, we're going to be joined by Andy Staples about 8:15. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick time out here, get Andy on. If you got any questions or comments for Andy, shoot them to us. You're watching and listening to Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Great Clips, it's gonna be great. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, South State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker, MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Rap Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Big Mills Cheesesteaks. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Are you tired of being sidelined by nagging pain? Hi, I'm Emmett Smith, Hall of Famer and Dance with the Stars champion. Happy to tell you about QC Kinetics and their biologic therapies for treating pain without drugs or surgery.
Are you suffering from chronic pain in your hips, knees, shoulder, or lower back? Are you tired of living with arthritis pain? QC Kinetics offers natural pain treatment that can repair and restore damaged tissue in your joints.
Listen, I know pain, and I've seen firsthand how powerful biologic therapies can be. Patients at QC Kinetics rave about their result because they're getting their lives back. They are getting moving again.
These exciting regenerative treatments used to be available only to pro athletes like Emmett. Now they're available to anyone thanks to QC Kinetics. Call today for your free consultation.
Get long-lasting results from my friends at QC Kinetics.
Call QC Kinetics 352-400-4550. In North Central Florida, call 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics 352-400-4550.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. At South State Bank, we understand that small businesses need a community business partner they can rely on. South State has 4 convenient Alachua County locations. South State Bank, banking for member FDIC. We're now going to go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by our good friend Andy Staples, former Gator football player, works for the Athletics, got his own show called the Andy Staples Show, or better known as the Ass Show. Right, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, an Ass Show is sort of like calling an ATM machine and automated teller machine. So it'd be like the Andy Staples show. But yeah, what we're working on is having our own bowl, because we realized this year that we've messed up our marketing plan. Like, we should have had a bowl game where we just call it the Ass Bowl. I mean, everybody loves that trophy that Auburn and Houston are going to play for with Vulcan working the forge, and he's wearing an apron and nothing under it, and so you can see his whole ass. And so we figure we're just going to steal that trophy. We're not going to actually design our own. We'll just take that one. And I mean, what a great way to get name recognition. And you the most ass-tastic show on the internet should have a bowl game named after that.
I agree 100%. Well, Andy, I want to get a couple thoughts from you first. Obviously, the Gators, just an awful football year. Bad football team, just went downhill. Lose to UCF. I called the game. There were tons of UCF people at Raymond James. Just your thoughts. I don't know if you watched the game, but
I did.
UCF had the 2 best players on the field. And where I'm going with this, I became a Gator in 1988, and I just said on air, it's the worst roster from a talent standpoint that I've seen since I've been a Gator. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know if from top to bottom, I don't know if it's the worst. I think there are players who could be SEC players, but in terms of ability plus chemistry, it's probably the worst. It's just, these guys did not play well together. It's not like, it feels like they weren't recruited with a plan. And, because remember, recruiting isn't just about how fast can you run, how tall are you? It's how well do you fit into what we do? And that's the part that is shocking. And, I remember back when Jim McElwain was the coach, and they played Florida State those first 2 years in 15 and 16 and got pretty well handled by them. I thought, oh, okay. So Florida's roster is not where it needs to be, because Florida State at the time had really good players. They were still competing with Clemson for the ACC title. And you thought, okay, if they can't get past this team, then they certainly can't compete with the best teams in the SEC. And you saw that when they would play Alabama in the SEC championship game. But when you look back on it now, you're like, wow, that McElwain staff was actually getting some dudes. Because if you look at those first few years of Mullen, the latter day McElwain recruits actually performed pretty well. They had a good eye for what they wanted. And, maybe it was Dan had a little bit better plan for those guys, but they played really well and played well together. And then you get to this year where it's mostly recruits that Dan brought in, and it just didn't look like they built a team. And I don't know what it was. I still think that the moment it all turned was there was a tweet that went out from ESPN's PR department. It's so weird how this all happened. It was Adam Schefter with 30 seconds, 3 things in 30 seconds to set you up for Sunday or something like that. It's some marketing thing they do. And so it's Adam Schefter talking about, different things in the NFL, and it's some guys hurt, some guys coming back from injury. And the last thing is, and watch out for Dan Mullen's name to pop up for NFL openings. And right then, everybody should have known, this guy's already looking for the next stop. So perhaps that should have been a warning sign that, this was not going to go that well. But I was shocked that it went downhill that quickly. And people have asked me, how do you fix the bowl? Did you see Florida play? How do you fix the bowl system to make them care, that they're in a game like that? I'm like, did you watch the South Carolina game or the Samford game or the Missouri game? They didn't care they were in those games. So why would they care that they were in this game?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because I've heard you on some other shows, Andy, about how do you fix the bowl system. I know they're meaningless games unless you're in the 14 playoff. But as you just said, if you're going to opt out, let's just use, Zach Carter opted out, didn't play in the Gasparilla Bowl. What's the difference from him? The Missouri game meant absolutely nothing for the Gators. Nothing.
Right.
The Samford game meant nothing. The Florida State game really meant nothing. So my point is, I look at it this way, and I'm not as smart as you, Andy. You could have gone to Harvard and all these places. But in like college basketball, how at the end of a game, within the last minute or minute and a half, they can review who touched the ball. Did it go out of bounds on this guy? Well, my point is, if two guys are scrambling for a ball in the first 2 minutes of a basketball game, that is just as important as it is at the end of a game.
I agree. I always, every time somebody's like, that call changed the whole game, I'm like, if you reverse that one, we got to go back and reverse all the other ones that were wrong too. That counts too. No, you're right about that. It's interesting. I don't know that there's a fix. That expanding the playoff will keep people from opting out of, like, you have Ohio State receivers opting out of the Rose Bowl. You've got Kenny Pickett and Kenneth Walker III opting out of the Peach Bowl. Like, those guys aren't opting out. They're playing because their team's in the playoff. Below that level, I don't know. You're not gonna entice a first rounder back with money. And I do think money is the solution for most of those opt outs. So you say the bowl sponsor is going to give you an NIL deal, and you're going to do some appearances around the bowl game, and you're gonna make some extra cash, and you get to go play one more time with your teammates. And everybody's like, well, you're not going to get a first rounder to do that. No, you're not. But there's only 32 of those,
Right.
And a lot of those are playing in the playoff anyway. So don't worry about those guys. But it's the borderline guys, the guys that are maybe third, fourth, fifth rounders, like their math's going to be different on this. It's not going to be what can I make versus what I'm going to make next year in the NFL. It's, oh, I can make a little extra and still play with my guys. Okay, I'll do that. Because they've got agents in their ear saying, look, you don't need to do that. There's nothing in this for you. And that's what it is. I still think there are lots of players who would just play. Like Dameon Pierce would play because there's a game. If there's a ball and a scoreboard, Dameon Pierce is going to play and play hard. Like that's who he is. And I think that's still most players. It's just that, for a lot of them, and they're not dumb. They see that all of these bowl games keep getting created. Somebody's making money off of this. Why shouldn't they make a little more money off of this? It's the American way. So, I also don't think there's a huge problem with the opt-outs. I think, a lot of people think that's a killer for the bowl. I don't. I mean, you're going to watch the games because they're on. And I still think there's more coaches that move before the bowl game, if you count head coaches and assistants, than players opt out of the bowl games. We'll have to run the numbers on it, but my guess is that number is pretty close.
Yeah, the whole opting out, I don't know how I feel about it. I do agree that if you're a first rounder, it makes sense. But if you're on a team that's 6-4 and you're playing your last couple of games in your conference, those games don't mean anything either. And why are you playing in those and not playing in the bowl game? So it's an interesting deal. Okay, before we jump into the 14 playoff, get your thoughts on that. I want to get your thoughts on Billy Napier. What do you know about Billy Napier? Do you think he was the right hire for the Gators?
So he definitely checks all the boxes for what they wanted. They wanted someone who was going to make recruiting a priority. They wanted someone who was going to understand what Kirby Smart is doing at Georgia and what Nick Saban is doing at Alabama and try to create an infrastructure that looks something like what they're doing. So, because that's what you have to compete with. That is what you're competing for players with. And Florida, probably post Will Muschamp, hasn't competed much with those schools for players. And that's what Billy Napier has been hired to do. And then obviously he needs to coach them very well on the field. So based on, conversations with folks who've worked with him, and he's a very detail-oriented guy. There's not a lot of small talk. He's not got a lot of outside interests. His interest is his job and making a better football team. And that seemed to have worked for him so far. And he's got an interesting background because he was made the play caller at Clemson very early on. It was actually the day that Dabo Swinney was named the interim coach in 2008. Dabo fired the offensive coordinator at the time, Rob Spence, and elevated Billy to the play calling role, which he was very young and he may not have been ready for. And Dabo ended up having to fire him after the 2010 season. And that's where Billy went into the Nick Saban, what Mike Loxley calls the Nick Saban Witness Protection Program, where he became an analyst. He kind of learned what they did at Alabama and then went off with McElwain to be a receivers coach at Colorado, and then came back to Alabama as the receivers coach. And so he was in the machine, saw how it worked under somebody else, came back to it. And I think it's interesting what these different Saban assistants take from Saban. It seems like Napier is more along the lines of Kirby Smart in terms of taking the right things from Nick Saban. The organizational structure, the willingness to adapt. That seems to be what Billy, because Billy Napier, from the people who've worked with him, I could talk to one person who used to work with him, And he was describing a phone call where they didn't work together anymore. So this was not two coworkers talking about their own program. This was a guy just getting advice from a former coworker. And the guy said it was like a 30-minute conversation about what to do on Monday and Wednesday of the off-season program. And the guy's like, not Tuesday and Thursday, not the whole week, just Monday and Wednesday for 30 minutes. And that's how detail oriented this guy is. That is what interests him. You know, this was a thick of the off-season conversation. This was not an in-season deal. So, I mean, that's what he wants to do. He wants to sit down and figure out ways to do better than the people who are trying to beat you, which I think is a very good quality. I think that's what they're looking for. I'm done predicting whether coaches are going to succeed or fail at new jobs, because I think there's so many factors. It makes it a giant crapshoot. But when you look at why Florida made a change, what they were looking for, I think he definitely fits what they were looking for.
I agree. We're speaking with Andy Staples here for a few more minutes on the Titan Hour Hotline. We got a Facebook Live brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. John says, we've had other Saban disciples, and they didn't create the infrastructure like Napier is doing.
Yep.
And wouldn't you say they didn't have the dollars and the hiring of, he's bringing in his army, so to speak. But I believe
Right.
Scott Strickland, they've opened up the checkbook. The off-the-field dollars are going to be equivalent to Georgia and Alabama, and the same with the recruiting budget, correct?
Correct. And that's what Will Muschamp never had that. Jim McElwain didn't have that. Jim McElwain started to get a lot more yeses than Muschamp or than Urban Meyer or than Ron Zook. Steve Spurrier didn't need the yeses. And that actually was sort of how Florida wound up with that mentality for so many years. Is Steve Spurrier would be, he'd make fun of the schools that had an indoor. And he said, we don't need that like all those rich schools. And he told Jeremy Foley enough times, all that stuff enough times that Jeremy Foley believed it. But what's funny is you had Coach Spurrier at South Carolina saying, "Oh, we need better facilities. We need this and this and this." He realized as his coaching career went on that stuff mattered. And yeah, I think it's very different. And you see, I joke every time. I feel like every time I open my email now, I have a new email from Florida's sports information staff about somebody they've hired in some position I've never heard of before. Like,
the titles are outstanding.
Yeah. Director of Recruiting Innovation, Director of Recruiting Strategy. Like, I love these titles, but you gotta call it something. But the fact of the matter is that is Billy Napier taking the organizational chart from Alabama and Georgia and saying, look, this is what you're up against. You have to recreate this if you expect to compete with this. And yeah, Scott Strickland understood that and went in and it has, tapped donors and has worked hard to raise money and is continuing to work hard to raise money to pay for that, because Billy Napier is not wrong. Like, it's not an accident that Alabama and Georgia have the best recruiting class every year. Texas A&M is doing that this year. Texas A&M has a similar infrastructure. Who did Jimbo Fisher used to work for? Nick Saban. Like, all of this is not an accident. Now with Jimbo, it's different because he hasn't worked for Nick for a while, but he's had to recruit against him, whether it's at Florida State or Texas A&M. And so he's looked at it and said, okay, here's what they're doing. Here's what we need to do. And Billy Napier's been inside it. And he's also been kind of on the other side of it. And now he's saying this is the only way to compete with him. And I don't think he's wrong. I think you've got to create an environment where if a recruit who is considering Alabama, Georgia, Florida, LSU, because remember, the type of players we're talking about have been offered by everybody. So they've seen Ohio State, they've seen Notre Dame, they've seen Alabama, they've seen LSU, they've seen Georgia. It's got to look and feel like those other places. If it looks like a mom and pop operation, they ain't coming.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Speaking of that, we just got a Facebook Live from Devin. He says, QB, I was shocked when you talked about the difference in the game day recruiting game day experience between us and Georgia. Any word on that change? Yes, it will change. I was shocked as well. All right, Andy, last thing before we let you go, and you can follow Andy on Twitter at Andy_Staples. 14 playoff. We're going to see a rematch of Alabama, Georgia.
I think we are. Now, Cincinnati, I think, can put up a fight against Alabama. The fact Kobe Bryant and Sauce Gardner, probably the two best corner or the best corner tandem in the country. And with no John Mechie, if you let's say, the problem is you don't have to have one guy following Jamison Williams around. Like whoever he winds up on can probably do a decent job covering him. And so that, I think, makes Alabama's offense a little less explosive. Now, you're going to have a healthy Brian Robinson in that game, or a more healthy Brian Robinson than we've seen most of the season. I think Alabama will be able to grind it out on the ground if they need to, if they can't generate those explosive plays in the pass game. But I do wonder about it. Can they get pressure on Bryce Young, just because they should be able to cover the receivers better than Georgia did, even though, that was Georgia's got all this talent. That corner tandem is better than what Georgia's got. So, maybe if Jamison Williams is locked down, and I don't know if that's possible, but if you get close to that, then you do force Alabama to beat you in a different style. But the problem with Alabama and what makes Alabama so good is they can beat you any way you want to play. And I think that Cincinnati can drag them into a lower scoring game, but Alabama's still going to win it. And then Georgia and Michigan, I feel like Georgia and Michigan are very similar teams. They want to play in a similar fashion. They want to control the game on the ground. They don't want to ask their quarterback to be Superman. And I think Georgia's probably a little better at that than Michigan. What Georgia's got to watch out for is those pass rushers for Michigan, Aiden Hutchinson, David Ojabo. If they are all over Stetson Bennett, that's where you have problems, because then you negative plays, potential turnovers. It's not just when he gets sacked. It's if he's under pressure and throws the ball up for grabs. That's how interceptions happen. So that's the part. If Georgia, it's funny because we said, well, Georgia's got to open things up if they ever want to win a national championship. And now I'm like, if Georgia could just be conservative in this game, they can win it. But I do think playing a team that's fairly conservative as well sort of plays into Georgia's hands.
Yep. Couple of questions for you, then we'll let you go. John says on Facebook Live, Andy, there were a lot of job openings this year. I don't think Lane Kiffin got offered any of those jobs. Why do you think that is?
I think he got sniffed around for a few of them, but I think he had a pretty good idea of what he was looking for as well. Now, think about the job. We've just been talking about the Florida job. I don't think Lane is the type of recruiter that Billy Napier is. I don't think he's worried about that level of infrastructure. It might be that Lane is at the level of school be at that works for him. Now, with Lane, it feels very quarterback dependent. Like if he can get himself he's going to have a good, more to incarnate word quarterback who he played like a wing T offense in high school. Nobody recruited him. Turns out he's a really good thrower of the football, and now everybody wants him. But I think that's probably it. Is people have seen what works for Kirby Smart, what works for Nick Saban, and they're saying we want that. And so, Lane, I think would have been interested in Miami. Now, take aside the part where Mario Cristobal is a Miami grad. Mario Cristobal is the kind of recruiter you need to succeed in today's game. Mario Cristobal's, we talked about Billy Napier slapping down the organizational chart from Alabama and Georgia and saying, let's do this. Mario Cristobal actually did that. I know for a fact he did that with Oregon's AD. So I'm sure he did it with the Miami folks as well. So that's more what everybody was looking for this year. I mean, look at Notre Dame promoting Marcus Freeman. A lot of that was about recruiting. A lot of that was, Marcus Freeman, since he got to Notre Dame, has gotten Notre Dame in on better players, has gotten, some higher level recruits committed to Notre Dame. That's what that is. That's what matters right now. And I think you look at Lane, that's not necessarily his top priority.
Last question here on the Titan Mar text line. Jason wants to know, Andy, do you think Urban coaches again?
I don't think it's at the major college level. I think he'd have to be willing to take a lesser college job, and I'm not sure if he's willing to do that. The problem with the major college level now is he's only been out of the game for 3 years, but things have changed so much that his style would be, I don't know if it would work that well. Because if a guy can jump into the transfer portal immediately, I'm not sure you're going to hang around and deal with Urban for a couple of years to wait to get developed. And the other piece of it is he'd have a hard time recruiting now because, he'd come in there with a kind of holier than thou sales pitch. I'm going to make your son a better man and a better person. And then like if I'm the Alabama coach or the Clemson coach or the Ohio State coach coming in behind him, like the next in-home visit, I'm like, oh, did you see this video? And then that recruiting pitch is shot to hell. So that's the part I would think would be an issue. Now, if he went to a lower level, like a lower level Power 5 or a Group of 5 type school, could he win there? Yeah, he could. I think he's proven he can win in college football, but I'm not sure he'd be willing to do that. I think he would want himself to be at a super power. So I would guess the next time he resurfaces, it's on Fox talking about college football.
Yeah, good stuff as always, Andy. Any specials going on with the Athletic right now?
Oh yeah. Right now you can get a full year for $24, $2 a month. That's our Christmas special, and I was just going through our stories on the college football playoff because we have a beat writer who covers each team, and I'm not done yet. I started the morning and I've read Cincinnati and Alabama, and I've got to go back to get Michigan and Georgia, but that's every day and every sport. We cover the NFL, we cover the NBA, we cover the NHL, we cover international soccer. So whatever you love, you're going to get so much to read about it. And $2 a month, come on, can't beat that.
That's true. Good stuff, Andy. Appreciate your time. Happy New Year, my man.
Thanks, Shane.
All right, that's Andy Staples. Join us on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. Going to take a timeout, come back, answer some more of your questions. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the morning.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Great Clips, it's gonna be great. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, South State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co. Some of our touchdown sponsors are MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avera and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Ruse Ogra Agent, State Farm Insurance, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Spurrier here. Making a reservation at my restaurant is easier than a Saturday afternoon homecoming game against Vandy. You don't have to call or email. Just go to spurriers.com, hit the reservation button, pick a date, a number of guests, and a time. It's so simple, I can do it. In fact, I just did. Maybe I'll see you tonight.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studio. Celebration Points where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Nike, Regal Cinemas, Le Macaron, Dave & Buster's, Medici's, Palmetto Moon, and the HBC's restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, now serving brunch on Saturdays and Sundays. We'll see you at Celebration Point where the Gators go to celebrate. Want to really appreciate Andy Staples taking the time to join us. He does a tremendous job for The Athletic covering college football, former Gator football player as well. So we appreciate him taking the time and joining us. Joseph says on Facebook Live, Lane wanted the Florida job. Yes, he did. I know that for a fact. But like he said, I think Scott Strickland and those guys were looking for a guy that had a really good recruiting plan. And I think we did a good job there. G says, you think Coach Napier will have them warming up in shorts and T-shirts for the game like Mullen did? Probably not. That was kind of an urban thing. I don't know how Billy Napier and his crew warm up. I guess we won't find out until Utah rolls into town next year. Let's get to This Day in Sports, which is brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. Comfort Temp's now hiring team members of all levels of experience. Great culture and benefits and opportunity for growth. $1,000 signing bonus for qualified positions. Give them a call. 352-376-2366. This Day in Sports. In 1975, the Hail Mary, with 32 seconds left in the NFC divisional playoff game, the Cowboys quarterback Roger Staubach throws a legendary 50-yard winning touchdown pass to Drew Pearson to defeat the Minnesota Vikings, and the Hail Mary play was born. You know, I've seen that. Basically, it was just a dang go route. It wasn't the Hail Mary that we think of now, so I'm not sure why they call that the Hail Mary. Maybe some of our listeners I was only 5 at the time. But anyway, that's This Day in Sports, brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. Facebook Live brought to you by Metal Law. John says, Shane, how do you see the Orange Bowl playing out? I've heard so many experts from the South think that Michigan can win. What do you think? I think they're carbon copies of one another. Both want to run the football, play great defense. I just think Georgia has more team speed, and they have experience of being in the playoffs. I think Georgia's going to win. I think we're going to see Georgia, Alabama. I think that game's going to be outstanding. I could be wrong, though. It could be Michigan's year. But I think we're going to see Alabama. And I know everybody talks about Cincinnati. They do have 2 really good corners. But this is a game where, like, Billingsley, the tight end / receiver, can get so many mismatches on their linebackers or their safeties that having John Mechie out is definitely going to hurt. But Alabama has a slew of skill guys at the wide receiver position. So, anyway, Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville, North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. Lauren says, Shane, I believe Staubach was a big Catholic and turned it to Hail Mary because he threw a prayer. Okay, that makes sense. Because if I remember it correctly, Lauren, it was basically just Drew Pearson was the only guy running basically a go route and threw it up. So Cliff says Georgia has the better athletes. Yeah, Michigan's got some good ones too. But we got a text on the Titan MR text line. Doesn't tell me who it's from. It was referring to us getting a visit from a 4-star. It's 4-star safety Jacoby Matthews. No relation. He spells his name with only 1 T. He spells it wrong. He'll visit on January 14th. He's the number 36 overall player in America. So, yeah, they're going to get some people visiting. There's no question. I think with all the people he's hiring, the facility, although they're not going to move into that facility till probably April or May, it's going to help. It's definitely going to help. Don't forget tonight or this afternoon, starting at noon, Auburn and Houston kickoff bowl games today. Got plenty of them to watch. I'm getting all these texts when I'm trying to talk on this show. Let's see. Again, if you want to follow Andy Staples, you can follow him on Twitter at Andy_Staples. Does a tremendous job for The Athletic. He also has his podcast, The Andy Staples Show, that is good as well. You can follow that on any platform that you get all your podcasts that you probably listen to my podcast on. You can listen to it as well. Lauren says, yeah, that was it. It was just a simple go route, not the mosh pit that you see now. Yeah, the Hail Mary now is 3 or 4 eligible receivers, and you got 4 or 5 defenders. And, you know, I completed one Hail Mary in my entire lifetime. It was against the Cleveland Browns at Soldier Field, and got us into overtime, and we won the game in overtime. So John says Andy's an excellent follow on Twitter. Yeah, he is. So anyway, don't forget Gators play basketball tomorrow at 5 o'clock in Oxford against the Ole Miss Rebels. And as I said, the women's team sits at 10-3 right now, and they've had a really good year. Now they're getting ready to get into conference play. John says he tweets a lot more than the Q. Yeah, I don't do a whole lot of tweeting. I just do a lot of reading. I'm not real active on Twitter. There's no question about that. Probably need to get better at it, but I'm not real good. No doubt about it. Got a text on the Titan MRI text line. Titan MRI text line. Larry says, when did Andy play for the Gators and what position? Andy was a walk-on offensive lineman. And, gosh, he had opportunities to go to, like, a lot of the Ivy League schools. Very smart individual. I want to say early in his career, he was on the 96 national championship team, if I'm not mistaken. But I think he was like a freshman or a redshirt freshman at that time. Didn't really play much, but, you know, came to the University of Florida, probably on a bunch of academic scholarships for sure. And, but has done a really good job at what he does now. Our Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Visit them at peachlanddental.com. JC and I did our bowl picks yesterday. We'll recap those tomorrow. I've already forgotten who I picked, so we shall see. He beat me up pretty good this past weekend. I picked a lot of silly games to give him an opportunity, and it backfired, but that's part of it. Hope you folks enjoyed today's program, and make sure you tell all your friends and family to follow us and like us on all the different platforms out there. The more, the merrier. Today's show's a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Take care.